Hello, everybody. This is Jacob Sapochnik with the Enchanting Lawyer podcast. This is a show where we interview the most inspiring entrepreneurs who share their stories with us and tips to help us practice better and do our work in a more inspiring way. And today I have a very interesting guest with a very, very good and informative content about email marketing. So we have today April Heavens Woodcock is the managing partner of Touching Clients, a marketing consulting firm that specializes in online branding. She works with small to mid-sized companies to implement strategic marketing strategies to help their businesses grow from the inside out. She has been a business partner with Constant Contact since 2006. April is an authorized local expert of Constant Contact and an Infusionsoft certified consultant. She presents regularly on email marketing and social media throughout the New England and the rest of the U.S. And April, I'm very happy to have you here. Welcome.
Thanks, Jacob. I'm excited to be here today.
How are you today?
I'm good, thanks. Thank you.
Excellent. And we covered many topics on the podcast from marketing, from social media, but I think email marketing is one of those areas where it's kind of like a hidden secret weapon. And for many businesses. And I'm very happy that you're here today because our audience are professionals, attorneys, other people that are dealing with customers all the time. And I think having that form of communication is really crucial. So why don't you give us a brief intro about yourself? I know I mentioned Constant Contact. For those that are not familiar with that, it is an email platform, a newsletter platform, very successful and known and one of the largest. And if you want to tell us a bit about yourself and how you started into that area, and then we can dive into the questions.
Okay, great. So my business, we've been in business almost, I guess it'll be 8 years in February. And the premise of when we first started was really client retention and staying in touch with your clients. So what we really looked to do was look for ways to stay in touch with your clients on a regular basis, from a handwritten thank you note to phone calls, and really work with companies to create strategies, because that's one of the things. We get busy in our day-to-day lives and things fall through the cracks. So staying in touch, not on purpose, just because life takes over. So my husband and I, actually Kevin, he's my partner in business, and he stumbled across Constant Contact shortly after we started our business and started looking into email marketing and really what you could do with it to stay top of mind awareness with clients on a regular basis and how you could use it to your benefit. So that's really where we started with email. And as our business has grown and we've developed more and more different services that we offer, email is still really the hub of what we do strategically, from training clients on what the value is of email, because really in today's marketplace, email, even though we have different email addresses, with social media the way that it is, it's another platform to enhance email marketing. But at the end of the day, your contact to their inbox is a way for a client to stay in touch with a prospect, with your current clients, and also stay top of mind awareness. So that's how we kind of got our foot into email marketing. And although we're authorized local experts with Constant Contact and they've been our original kind of connection to email, we have experience in MailChimp, iContact, MMail, and then have progressed into marketing automation with Infusionsoft and the value that it can bring to business owners. We started as a small business, and we've been fortunate. We've made a lot of great connections, like you, Jacob, and we've grown our business over the past 8 years, and all of our staff is actually in the process of getting certified within Constant Contact. And so when we work with clients, we definitely have, our goal is to educate them to be successful.
Excellent. And first of all, congratulations on your growth. I think the people that I try to bring on the show are people that are always thinking outside the box, are always bringing ideas try to use the current tools but make them more effective. And you definitely have done that. I've personally seen you grow and develop your business, and it's really amazing how you've done that. April, I
Thanks.
wanted to start with this. This is interesting. People are I don't think people understand the power of email marketing. And do you think that today job marketers and companies, they feel that email marketing is an important part of the general marketing strategy and mix?
That's a great question, Jacob. I think larger brands see the value in it, and that I think that small to medium-sized businesses are still. I think many see the value of email marketing, but I still think that there's a lot to learn in terms of, it's one component of your marketing plan, and it is marketing. So it's although it's giving a personal touch to your business, an electronic format, it is still a way to market your business. So I think that there's still many businesses out there that don't understand the value. And when you look at communication choices, email is still it's still the number one preferred communication choice. I think it's like 94% as a statistic, and people will more likely give you an email address before they give you your phone number, an address, anything like that. So it's one of the easier ways to be able to be in touch directly with that person, where although I love social media, there's lots of moving parts and changes in terms of algorithms of who actually sees your content on a regular basis. If you're advertising, where email is a direct hit to an inbox. And I still think that getting that message across, that how valuable it is for a business and how you really can monetize your business just with an email campaign is definitely still a learning curve for many.
Right. So in what ways does email marketing kind of complete the mix, the strategy?
So really, it's that top of mind awareness, because
Hmm.
so you think about your sales cycle and your sales funnel, and you start with, it used to be really about how you prospected clients. Everybody wanted to prospect. The more clients you could get through the door, great. Then you have them, and then you retain them. But now in today's marketplace, it's really, yes, you want to find new clients, but the goal is, how are we going to retain them and keep them on board? And email adds that element to a marketing campaign and completes that process, because when you're building an email campaign, and that consistency, staying top of mind awareness on a regular basis. So whether it's you do a monthly newsletter, whether you're a retail location where you're still doing different sales, whether you're as an attorney in your law firm,
Right.
a monthly newsletter, and being able to provide good, valuable information where you're building that whole content, right, where you can
Hmm.
repurpose it to social media, you can repurpose it from your blog. It completes that cycle, and it's really the delivery. It's kind of the deliverer of all your information out to your audience.
Right. That is true. And right now people are the hype is social media. Everybody's talking about social media. You have to do it. You have to do it. But in a way, do you think that email marketing somehow paved the way for social media marketing? And if so, in what way?
I do. I do in some sense of yes, I do, because I think email marketing, there's that intimate, in some way, that intimate connection, because you have an email address to that person, to that inbox. And what email marketing is still really an important piece of social media marketing, because it helps amplify your message. So, for example, email now gives you a message that you can have as a web link, where it can be shared across multiple platforms. It can be tweeted. And the end goal, I think, in any marketing strategy should be get them back to your website so you can convert them. And I think that email started that launch of that social connection, and then social media came into play, and it's helped email be more of a trigger to amplify the message.
Right. And people who are trying to use, especially small businesses and service businesses, what do you think is some of the mistakes that you see that they do using email marketing?
Sure. I think the biggest mistake I see is inconsistency. You will not when you decide that you're going to use email marketing as part of your plan, consistency is going to be your best friend in that space, because the more consistent you can be, the more people are going to, we're by default, we're creatures of habit. So people, they start to look for your emails. They notice when your email doesn't come, if it's not on a consistent basis. So I think consistency is one of the biggest things that I see. The other thing is the content. I think that people struggle with content, but really the content that you share on a regular basis with your clients, if you're offering tips, if you're offering, sometimes a case study would be a great thing for like a law firm to do a case study of how you successfully, used, with immigration. You had somebody that was struggling with a visa, just to educate people on different things. So content, sometimes people struggle with it, but I don't think it's not because they don't have the content, it's because they're fearful of the content. Like, oh my gosh, I have to write an email. Right. And then thirdly, they're too long. Email, we do live in a very fast-paced environment, so email should be very short, specific, and the goal is to drive them to your website or a landing page or even your social media channel for more information on your business. So I have seen so many people that spend hours on an email where really they only needed to spend half that time and only offer, a few different pieces of content. And if you find that you have that much to share, then maybe instead of a monthly newsletter, you should be offering a bi-weekly or even a weekly newsletter, because people read very short, specific. You want it above the fold and easy to navigate. So those are the top three, I would say.
And we all subscribe to newsletters, and I get many of them from different marketers or other professionals. And some of them I get on a weekly basis. Some of them they are monthly, quarterly. Others actually send an email on a daily basis. What do you think is a good frequency when you build this campaign and use your newsletter to communicate with your audience?
Sure. I think a great place to start is a monthly, and one of the things I always recommend is, just like your A client, you wouldn't show up late, you'd be there. Make that commitment to your email marketing, because first of all, it's cost effective for your practice or your business or organization. Secondly, those email service providers that are available, you don't have to be a graphic designer to put out a great branded email. So, make that commitment to yourself, and I think that you'll see its return in a very short amount of time on an email campaign. Monthly is definitely the place that I would start, and then decide, depending upon your audience, just like in social media, you need to listen to what they're interested in. So, for example, the benefit of using an email service provider is you get to see the open rates, you get to see the click-through rates that people have clicked through to various links in your emails, and then you can also, that will help dictate what kind of content you provide and maybe how often you should be sending it. So those analytic tools are very helpful in creating a successful campaign.
And I do agree with you that, in my own law firm, we used to do a monthly newsletter, and you knew that at the end of every month or the week before, you have to put all the content together, and you have to release it. It's less of a burden, and you can still do it because it's not that hard. But some of the questions that I get from people that are reading my blog and some of the audience is the difference between those RSS feed subscriptions where you sign up and you want to get updates on a weekly basis, or the actual newsletter that is content outside of your blog. So why don't you talk about that? So for example, when somebody subscribes to Enchanting Lawyer, people that listen to the podcast or come to my blog, they'll get our Monday articles every Monday, and they're going to get a Wednesday email with our podcast release. But this is content that is on my website, and the reason they subscribe is because they want to know when there is new content. So why don't you kind of explain the difference between these two type of email campaigns and advantages, or maybe using both, or how does it work?
Sure. So basically, just as you mentioned, when an RSS feed is really, it's when a blog or a podcast is published, it's an auto-generated, almost like an auto-responder. When that email post, there's a setting within your RSS feed that'll generate an email that, hey, there's a new blog post up. The difference between that and an email newsletter, typically the content in an email newsletter, you may have blog content. Your audience may be a little bit different as well in an email newsletter. So, for example, someone may just sign up for your blog updates and not your newsletter, because newsletters have a little bit more variety of information. Maybe you'll include a blog post, but there might be a tip in there. It's more personalized to the audience that you're sending it to, as opposed to your blog post is interest of content, but depending upon your blog, like I know with Enchanting, you have marketing, you have law information, you have lots of different information of kind of blogs that you post, relational to marketing, but you also have some also very specific to law firms, where somebody that might sign up for the Enchanting newsletter, you might have marketers that are not attorneys that are in that are looking for more information on, how you grew your practice and what tools you use. So your audience may be a little bit different. And I think in terms of a newsletter, it's a little bit more personalized. You can personalize it a little bit more, where an RSS feed is really just an auto email that's generating a teaser of a paragraph, the title, and it sends you to the blog. Now, that's not to say in a newsletter you wouldn't include something like that, but you just add a little bit more content, and it gives you the ability to add more variety and very specific to that targeted audience on your list.
Right, and that makes sense. So I guess everybody can choose, depending on the content they create, what is going to be the method of email that they're going to be releasing, in this case, the campaign.
Yes.
April, what do you think are some of the must-haves that you must create in order to successfully use email marketing? You can maybe list 2 or 3 of those, but absolutely must-haves that we need before we launch an email campaign.
Okay. So I think, I think one of the things that does come up, people are worried that they don't have a big enough list. I think that you can start an email campaign with, 50 email addresses, even 25, because the goal is you're going to build it and you want them to be the people that are on your email list to share that with their friends and share that on social media and forward it to help you grow your list. So obviously you need a list, and you obviously need it in a digital format. I highly recommend using an email service provider. Sometimes people choose to send it through like Outlook as a blind copy or Gmail. I would encourage you to use an email service provider, Constant Contact, MailChimp, iContact, because they make it easy where you can brand a nice template that match your colors, because branding is important. You want to make sure that if I go to your website, I open your email, I go to your social media, that all looks consistent, because top of mind awareness, brand makes a world of difference. And the other reason is sometimes people forget to blind copy, and now you've just shared all of those email addresses with the world, right? So you never want that to happen. The other thing about using an email service provider is that you get the analytics, and the analytics are going to be really the key to your success in developing your future content. Times of day, that's a good time for you to send an email to your audience and really be able to track kind of some of their behavior as you're sending your email. And just really starter content. And, starter content, again, you don't really need to overthink it. You already have the content. It's just making it so it's, putting it into almost a Word document format. But I do encourage people to go shorter, as I said earlier, and really think about using bullets, like key points, and use that in your email to deliver some good content. And, and I think those are really the things that you need to get started.
This is excellent tips. And you mentioned a list, small list, even 50 contacts. And I think this is a very important point, the list. What is, first of all, how do you build a list, and what is the value of a list? And we often hear marketers talk about that a list is actually worth money. It's assets. It's an actual asset if you have a large list, a quality list with leads that engage with you. And so I wanted to spend a bit more time on this point. First of all, how do we build a list? And before that, what is actually the value of having a quality list?
Okay. So, building a list, you want to start. So, there's a few things with email marketing. The one thing I'm going to say is you never ever want to purchase an email list. Those purchase email lists that is your first ticket to becoming a spammer, and you never want to be known as a spammer. So, never purchase a list. Because you meet somebody at a networking event and you take their business card, that is not presumed that you can add them to your email list. So you want to make sure that you have explicit permission from people to join your list. Now, that being said, your clients, your customers, you have a presumed relationship with them, and I would include them in your email list. But what I would do is when you first send your newsletter, I would make an announcement and give them an option to opt out of that list. Let them know you're going to be sending a newsletter list, just so you know. It's good customer service. It gives them an opportunity to opt out. So I would start with your client list, and then I would look to build your list, make sure it's on your website. All of the email service providers will give you easy code to add to your website, on your social media channels, add those links. Everywhere that you touch your audience, look for ways for them to join your list. Another great way to build your list is provide, think about a download, an ebook, a tip sheet, a tips and facts sheet to try to encourage people to join your list. So that's a great way to kind of get people in. And it's also a great way to get a targeted audience in, because if you're providing something of value that they like, chances are they're going to stay with you and engage with you in your email and continue to open it for the long term. So I would start looking at those ways to first build your list. The other thing too is if you do any kind of public speaking or hold events, I always, when I have an event, I have a registration, encourage people to join my email newsletter for tips. And I also offer, sometimes I'll offer a download depending upon the setting that I'm in. So if you do events, make sure that you're collecting and make sure that it's permission based, obviously. As a list being an asset, well, if you think about it, and I'm going to give you an example of a company that we worked with, that we still work with. They use Constant Contact, but they are a vending company and they're a small business owner. And when they first started, their list was very small. They had under 100, probably about under 100 contacts. And they've been using email marketing for about 3 years now.
Okay.
But at their first year, I was in a business networking group with them at BNI, and what they did was, I had no idea. He stood up and he said, I just need to, pass on this recommendation to April and how email marketing works and how it can bring value to your business. And this is where it comes into the money of your list. So that list, basically, they had people that had joined their newsletter, somebody that was interested that they had met and made a connection with, asked them if they wanted to join their list. And what it did was over a 6-month period, she was on their monthly newsletter, and they would put tips about helping their employees, and, they do vending. So had some fun little copy of the month kind of thing in there, just really a general, but personalized, obviously, to their business. At the 6-month mark, they got a call and they said, you have been on my mind. I love you that you communicate with me on a regular basis, and I want to meet. Well, it turned into a $150,000 a year client for them. Wow. And it just really shows how your list can turn into money by staying in touch with somebody. So that's just one example. So that list, if you're talking to your current clients, most likely a lot of us get referrals from our current business, right? So that's another way, by top of mind awareness, to keep generating that revenue wheel and those referrals. And then these connections that you make, it is all about the power of networking and that communication, because you need to look at email as a communication. People do business with who they know, like, and trust. And although it's a digital format, it's another way of staying in touch with them. And so that list really is a revenue wheel maker. As long as you're being consistent and listening to what the needs of that list wants from you in terms of content, it will pay it forward, and it will eventually start turning those revenue dollars spinning.
Right. And, that being on a list allows you to do many things. For example, when somebody first signs up, there are very interesting ways to follow up with them, sometimes even automatically through different tools that those email providers provide. Why don't you tell us a bit about that. How you can create a campaign where somebody comes to your list, sign up. They're not retaining you yet, but you build a system, kind of like a funnel, where you keep in touch with them for a period of weeks, sometimes even months, until they become clients. And once they become clients, you move them to different categories. We call these follow-up funnels that those services allow us to do. Can you share some information about that?
Sure. So with an email service provider, with a Constant Contact or a MailChimp, building basically a campaign is really a strategy sales funnel to foster new leads and obviously foster your clients that you may already have in the pipeline. But from a new lead sale perspective and a prospect perspective, they sign up for your newsletter. What you can do is you can create what's called an autoresponder series of emails where it can respond to, you can set up content ahead of time, and that's what you need to do with an autoresponder, and really talk to them, tell them about your practice, tell them about your organization, go into sharing specific content. So for example, we have an autoresponder set up with Constant Contact for one audience, but then we use Infusionsoft marketing automation for a different audience. And there's two ways of doing it. Constant Contact, we have the autoresponders where we're watching the analytics, and it's really just email generating communications, and then they're on our regular newsletter list. But then what we have as our sales funnel in Infusionsoft is based on their habits. So for example, if they click on a link, if they share more information, we've created a series of emails. We also have data collection forms with more information. So at some point after, I believe it's like the third email, we've given them a download. We're tracking their behavior. Infusionsoft is basically telling us now they're a hot lead. They've clicked on everything. They're interested. Maybe it's time to make a phone call to them. So you really can set that up within these different tools to monitor the behavior, nurture them, talk to them the way that they want to be talked to. So we have a campaign that's for local people, and then we have local to where our office is, but then I have another campaign that's to anybody. Anybody comes in and we talk to them a little bit differently. So you can really build campaigns based on your target of audience and track those behaviors and set it so, hey, guess what, Jacob, this person has clicked on everything. Call them. They're a hot lead. Now they've given us even more information that now we have enough where it might be worth giving them a call and see if we can help them.
Right. And this way, it's kind of a system in a way where you can break it down and you're able to close these people in a methodical way in a way. Now you mentioned before a term called open rate. How do we know how many emails were open, how many people unsubscribed? Can you give us some tips on effective headlines? Like what will make somebody open an email that I send them? I mean, we get so many emails. Do you have any tips for attractive headlines that will actually help people to get a higher open rate on their emails?
Sure. So subject line should never be more than 5 to 8 words. Mm-hmm. You really want to make sure that you watch your punctuation, making sure that not a lot of exclamations and all of that, because that'll definitely trigger a spam filter. Try to stay away from using the word free and guarantee all the time. When creating your subject line, I would really make sure that there's a good call to action, maybe include a question. That whole FOMO in the social media world, fear of missing out. Think about your headline, subject line as what will make them want to open this email? What is the fear that if they don't open it? And now I'm not saying use scare tactics. I'm just saying when you're creating your subject line, really look for good words that are going to leave them going, oh, what's this? I want to look at this. An example could be, and this is kind of a reverse play, 5 tips to get audited by the IRS, which is kind of a flip side. Well, I don't want to get audited. What's that? So leave people wanting to open that email. The other thing, too, that's really important, it's not always just your subject line, but making sure that it's familiar of who it's from. So it should really have make sure your name is there. I try to encourage people to stay away from those info at email addresses and use your branded URL, but use even a secondary. So like April at Touching Clients or Jacob at Enchanting Lawyer, if you use your first and last name as part of your regular email communication, because there's a higher chance that it will make it to the inbox, because nowadays we have all these wonderful spam filters, and we also have these systems that help people manage their time a little bit more effectively with their inbox. So sometimes things get pushed into the wrong folder. So you want to make sure it gets through by recognition. One of the other things too is that if you have a sales team, so for example, if you have many people on your team and one part of your sales team deals with a certain clientele, you may want to consider having the same newsletter but sending it to 5 different lists coming from that salesperson, because the more familiar they are with that person, the more likely they're going to open that email. Typically, a good open rate is anywhere between 18 to 25%. So, and the one thing I will caution though, open rates can be swayed by the devices that they're opening it on. I think it's over 42% are opening on mobile nowadays. We have tablets, we have iPhones, we have Androids. So open rates, don't be swayed by, oh my gosh, my open rate is so low. I mean, obviously you definitely want to see it as close to 18% as possible, but there could be a way of, they're not always as accurate. Like a click-through rate, someone took an action. The click-through rates are really I believe, the most important statistic in an email campaign, because now you can see what your audience is interested in. You can talk to them. You could remarket to them by that click-through. And usually good click-through rates, anywhere from 12 to 18% are considered really good click-through rates. So, but I would pay more attention to your click-through rate as opposed to your open rate.
Very good. Yeah, because sometimes we get frustrated with people not opening our emails, but in fact that's not the only factor to consider here.
Right.
April, another question that comes up often that I get is people want to know whether they should use text-only emails or HTML with graphics and things like that. And you see a lot of the marketers right now. Some of them just use plain text with nothing in it. They use interesting fonts, but nothing in it. So I'm curious, what's your take on the kind of email? Would it text or use something else in it?
So that's a great question. We've been playing a lot with both ways to monitor to see the results. And honestly, I have not seen, we have some clients that have some pretty large lists, and watching the difference between the two. And I haven't seen a sway either way. Point. So the reason, and one of the biggest things too, is that graphics 67% of the time don't render as an image in an email. So what I would say is that I think that I typically do HTML graphics and text version. So that's usually the choice that I choose, but I keep my graphics to a minimal. I keep the brand logo and then maybe one other graphic in the email. So I do keep more text than I do visual in an email. But I think that what I encourage everybody to do is you have to test, because every audience is different, that who you're sending to. So that's really going to dictate what's the best option of email to send. Obviously, you really do want to try to pick a mobile-friendly template. If there's not a mobile-friendly template available, single text emails, single column emails actually work better as a mobile format, just because of the scrolling. They show up better in a mobile format and a tablet format. I know it kind of indirectly answers your question, but I know that from the results that I see, I'm not seeing one difference one way or the other. I think that it comes down to your audience, and you need to test it within your own list.
And maybe more of a style type of question as well.
Yes.
And April, what do you think are some of the email marketing trends that you see coming up in this year, and as we're heading almost to the end of the year 2015? What are going to be some of the cool features, some of the trends and things that we should be aware of as we venture into email marketing?
Well, I think there's going to, I think the trend this year has really been about going to more mobile-friendly emails. I know a lot of the service providers are really trying hard working on that. And so if you're using an email service provider like Constant Contact or MailChimp or iContact, they have very limited templates available for mobile responsive. So I know that is a big thing because, again, that number, 42% on the mobile phone, that's huge. And I think that's only growing because as the younger generation that's way more technically inclined than I am coming up, that's all that they know is mobile. So that number is going to rise. So I think that's going to continue to rise. I see a lot more, I think video is really a great tool in email, and it's a nice, easy way to deliver content in a very personal way. I see that as definitely a more coming trend. It's not that it's not hasn't been available, but really a lot of the providers you're opening it with in another window. So, for example, if you have YouTube and a video attached, it still opens in another window. So I see that you'll be able to just play an email right from your play a video right from your email is another trend. I don't see email marketing going away. If anything, I think that more creative ways of really looking at getting opened and not over communicating to our audience. I think that's one of the biggest things that as a trend, I'm not sure it's a trend, but so much as it is, I think as marketers and as business owners, we really need to pay attention to that. Because email is here to stay. I don't see it going away. And it's one of those things where, like social media, Facebook closed tomorrow, right? And we worked so hard for all these followers and, building this great community. And I guarantee that mostly everyone, I wouldn't be surprised if it was straight across the board, but these email lists are not as big as their business pages. So really hold on to that list, really look at it as an asset and keep it and foster it and look at it as your communication tool.
Right, because your subscribers are going to stay with you, whether you close your Facebook page or delete your Twitter account, you're going to keep your people in your email list.
Yes, so, definitely.
April, as we come to the end of our show, I just wanted you perhaps to share maybe 2 or 3 tips with our audience to help them be more successful in email marketing if they're using it, and if they're not, give them some motivation to start using it right away.
Sure. So, I think the biggest thing is be consistent. When you're looking to do an email campaign, know that you can do it. I think that it's one of those things where it feels like it's another time. I definitely have heard, it feels like a time waster. I don't see the value in it, but I think that the one thing you need to look at is that this is a cost-effective way to market your business. So make the time, and I promise you it will come back and it will be a return to your business and that branding, and it will bring you and generate income the more consistent you can be. The other tip I would say is that, just steer the course, because that consistency, it takes time with any marketing plan. So it's just taking, it may take a month, it may take 6 months, but be consistent with it and don't get frustrated, and take the time to look at your analytics, because I have met many business owners and organizations that they're like, analytics? I sent my email, I had 10 people open it. Okay, well, how many people opted out? How many people clicked through? Really look at the analytics, because that is the biggest thing that will help you have a successful email marketing campaign.
Excellent. And I think those tips are great, because we have no idea why are we doing what we're doing, and by trying to follow some of these analytics, studying our audience, we can definitely create better content. April, I wanted to thank you for coming on the show, and I would please verbally mention where our audience can find you, your website, or your email address if you want to share.
Sure, thank you. More than happy to answer questions. Feel free to email me at awoodcock, just like it sounds, at touchingclients.com. And my website is touchingclients.com. You can also find us on Facebook at facebook.com/touchingclients. But please feel free to reach out with any email questions. I'd love to help business owners be successful in email. As I said, when we first started our business, it was one of the first things that we got involved with, and it is a highly, highly valuable resource for your business. And I encourage you, if you haven't started, to start one in the new year. That should be a new business goal. And if you are using email and you're not using it as effectively as you could be, take a step back and look at ways that you can improve it.
Thank you so much, April. And thank you for listening to the show. If you have any questions, feel free to comment in our blog or email me at jacob@enchantinglawyer.com.